Hi, friends. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about being heroic. What does being heroic mean? What does it look like? What does it live like? Well, first of all, I think we need to talk about what being heroic is not. Like in today's world, for instance, we as Christians living in a secular culture, we're constantly being told, and we're even uh, telling ourselves and telling others that the highest virtue, or one of the highest virtues for human living, is being nice, right? Just being nice. But that's setting the bar for Christianity pretty low. I mean, yes, part of being a Christian is to be nice to people, but it doesn't encapsulate, it isn't the essence of what it means to be a Christian. But that's kind of how it's being proffered today in our society. How so? What do I mean here? Well, being nice in the sense that we don't bother anybody. When there are things going on in a person's life, we don't insert ourselves. So the virtue is just leaving other people alone. They're okay, I'm okay, we're okay, and never the two shall meet, right? Mind your own business. And in fact, it's seen as very rude, for instance, when we talk about our faith, or we share our faith, or we use our faith, like in raising our children, to pass on our values and our beliefs to them. We've heard it said before, we shouldn't be passing these things on to our children. We should let them choose for themselves. How many movies, how many TV shows have we seen where that kind of stuff is proffered to people, right? So being nice is basically minding your own business and not bothering people, not bringing faith or our values or our lifestyle, our way of living to other people. Even if those other people are children or brothers or sisters or spouses or friends or people that we really love. No, no, don't correct. Don't do any fraternal correction. You're not your brother's keeper. Have you ever seen the show or heard about the show Smallville? So when I was a little younger and Smallville was out there, I used to watch it. I think there was like 10 seasons or something like that. Well, if you know anything about the life of Superman, Smallville was about Clark Kent's life before he became Superman. And almost every episode, it seemed as if, and Father Mike Smith points this out, and he points out that almost every, and I have to go back and watch some of this, almost every episode, Clark is being told, mind your own business. Because he would see somebody in need, and he had this power, he had these gifts, he had these skills, he had these abilities, he had this strength. And he couldn't just keep it to himself. He had to go rescue people. He had to go save people. He had to go insert himself into people's lives with all that he was going to be one day, Superman, and really help individuals in that regard. So inevitably, people would say to him, family members or friends, and certainly strangers, mind your own business. But this superhero in the making, Clark Kent, who would one day become Superman, he didn't mind his own business. He made sure that if somebody needed him, he was there for them. Heroes don't wait for permission to act. Heroes act, even without that permission. And in fact, when you look at it, like all of the superheroes of Marvel and DC Comics, it's the case over and over and over again. They don't stop and ask for permission. They act. and we call them heroes, right? So somewhere in there, we have to go back to the idea of what it means to be a Christian. It isn't to ask for permission to act in people's lives. It's, in fact, being a hero. That's what it means to be a Christian, I think, especially today, but certainly up and down the generations. Our saints, our martyrs, were our Christ, the Son of God, didn't wait for us to ask for permission for him to become incarnate, join us in our human condition, take on our suffering, suffer upon a cross and die and rise in order to save us. No, he went ahead and did that anyways. And I think that that's something that we have to keep in mind for ourselves, is that we don't wait for people to ask, we do. And there's a great little saying by John Paul II, or John Paul the Great. Now, of course, he's called Saint John Paul II, a pope that was around when I was growing up as a boy and as I entered into seminary. Very much inspired me. He said this: it's necessary that the heroic becomes daily and the daily becomes heroic. Because his point is that if we don't come to this, that our daily lives become heroic, and heroic becomes something daily that we do, not asking, not waiting for people to ask for us, then what we end up doing is just living a nice life that ends up, in the Christian sense, being mediocre at best, where we only care for ourselves. And even when we see other people who need us, need our truth, need our beauty, need our love, need our moral compass, we don't insert ourselves. And what ends up happening then is we really only care for ourselves as Christians, right? I mean, that's what it distills down to. We might have a heart for other people who are hurting, but we don't insert ourselves because of this distilled down version, like to the bare minimum of what it means to be a Christian. It simply means to be nice. But that's not Christ's life at all. And that's not how he taught us how to be saints. And when we live our lives in this way, then it ends up not only hurting us, it ends up hurting others, communities, and entire societies. Because we've forgotten what Christ taught us, to be our brother's keeper, meaning to be heroes. So don't wait for permission to act. Act, right? In regards to the people who are most precious to you. You know, let me end with this. The Christian life and being discipleship is not about checking off a list. No. It's about paying attention to the name we take and the way that that man lived his life, our Christ. And the way he lived his life is that he didn't wait for us to ask for his intervention. He went ahead and intervened into our lives. And if we're going to continue to take that name, then we have to be willing to do the same. When our husbands and our wives need us, when our children are making mistakes and our culture's telling us, let them make their mistakes and let them choose their faith. No. Give them your faith. Give them the thing that you treasure the most. Give them that relationship that you have with Christ. And then they'll have the stuff that many of us grew up with in our lives. And not just them, but our faith communities, our societies, our neighborhoods, our schools, our sports teams, our cities, our towns, our villages, our nation will have what Christ passed on to us. This great superpower. Just remember that. The power that we have access to in faith is more powerful than a locomotive and is able to leap buildings at a single bound, meaning there is no power in this world that is greater than what Christ has given us. Let's not keep it to ourselves. but share it abundantly like all the superheroes did, who didn't wait to be asked to be a hero. Until next time, friends.